The fridge camera revelation. Hello, beautiful souls. Before we dive into today's story, I want you to know that what you're about to hear changed everything for me. If this resonates with you, please hit that subscribe button and share your own experiences in the comments below. Sometimes the people we trust most are the ones planning our downfall. I'm Margaret Chen, 78 years old, and I've been betrayed by blood. The shock that changed everything. You know that feeling when your world tilts sideways and suddenly nothing makes sense anymore. That's exactly what happened to me last Tuesday at 3:47 p.m. I was sitting in my kitchen, the same kitchen where I'd made 43 years of Christmas dinners, when I heard my daughter Linda's voice coming from the refrigerator. Now, before you think I've lost my marbles, let me explain. My grandson Jake had installed this fancy security camera inside my fridge 6 months ago, said it was to help me keep track of my medications and make sure I was eating properly. Sweet boy. Or so I thought. The camera had a speaker function that I'd never quite figured out how to turn off, and sometimes it would pick up phone conversations from the kitchen. "Mom's getting worse, David," Linda was saying to my son. "Did you see how she forgot where she put her glasses yesterday? They were on her head the whole time." I touched my glasses reflexively. Yes, I'd done that. Once. In 40 years of wearing glasses. "The house is worth at least $800,000 now," David replied. "If we can get her into Sunset Manor by Christmas, we could have it on the market by New Year's." My heart stopped. Literally stopped for what felt like an eternity. I already talked to that realtor, Jennifer what's-her-name. She says houses in this neighborhood are selling within 2 weeks. Subscribe now to hear how I turned the tables on my own children. And don't forget to comment below with your own family stories. You won't believe what happened next. The weight of realization. I sat there for 27 minutes. I know because the kitchen clock ticked each second like a sledgehammer against my chest. 27 minutes of listening to my children dissect my life like I was already dead. They talked about my episodes, forgetting names, misplacing things, being difficult about taking my medications. They discussed my bank accounts with the casual precision of accountants. They debated whether Sunset Manor or Peaceful Pines had better memory care facilities. Memory care. The euphemism made me want to laugh. If I weren't so busy dying inside. When the conversation finally ended, I remained motionless, staring at my reflection in the chrome surface of that traitorous refrigerator. The woman looking back at me seemed smaller, somehow, more fragile than the one who'd woken up that morning. "I am Margaret Chen. I immigrated to this country in 1967, with $17 and a suitcase held together with string. I worked 3 jobs to put myself through nursing school. I raised 2 children as a single mother after their father decided family life wasn't adventurous enough. I bought this house with money I earned, changing bedpans and comforting dying patients. I am not going gently into their convenient night. But oh, the pain. You cannot imagine the particular agony of discovering that the people you've sacrificed everything for see you as nothing more than an inconvenient asset to be liquidated." The architecture of betrayal. Over the next few days, I began paying attention with the sharp focus of a prosecutor building a case. The signs had been there all along, hadn't they? I'd just been too trusting, too willing to believe in the goodness of my own blood. Linda's sudden interest in helping me organize my financial documents, David's repeated suggestions that I should simplify my life, the way they exchanged glances when I told the same story twice at dinner, their patient, patronizing smiles when I expressed opinions about current events. I remembered my mother warning me about this exact scenario 30 years ago. "Margaret," she'd said in her broken English, "when you get old, children see dollar signs, not mother." I dismissed it as old country paranoia. My children were different, they were American, they were better. How spectacularly wrong I'd been. The psychological excavation was brutal. For decades I'd structured my entire identity around being their devoted mother. Every decision, every sacrifice, every moment of joy, it all centered on Linda and David. I'd given up dating after their father left, because I thought it was better for them. I'd worked double shifts to pay for their college educations. I'd babysat their children for free while they built their careers. And now, in my supposed twilight years, I was nothing more than a problem to be solved, preferably quickly and profitably. The betrayal wasn't just about money or the house. It was about the casual dismissal of my humanity, the assumption that I was too far gone to notice or too weak to fight back. They'd made me complicit in my own diminishment. the investigation begins. But here's what my darling children had forgotten about their old mother. I might be 78, but I spent 4 decades as a psychiatric nurse. I know how to read people, how to gather information, and how to plan strategically. First, I needed to understand the full scope of their planning. I started carrying a small notebook, documenting every conversation, every helpful suggestion, every patronizing pat on the shoulder. I began asking pointed questions about their visits, their sudden interest in my medical appointments, their recommendations for upgrading my living situation. "Linda," I said during one of her increasingly frequent visits, "you seem very concerned about my memory lately. Have you been talking to Dr. Patterson about me?" She looked genuinely surprised. Good, she wasn't expecting directness. "Well, Mom, we just want to make sure you're getting the best care possible." "How thoughtful. And you think Sunset Manor provides the best care?" Her face went white. "Who told you about—" "The same little bird that told me about the realtor consultation." The silence that followed was magnificent. I watched 43 years of taking me for granted crumble in real time. The confrontation 3 weeks later. I was ready. I'd done my research, consulted with my lawyer, and prepared my strategy. I invited both children for Sunday dinner, our traditional family gathering that they'd been using as reconnaissance missions. The table was set with my good china, the meal was perfect, and I was dressed in my best dress. If this was going to be a funeral, it might as well be a proper one. "Before we eat," I announced, "I have something to discuss with both of you." David reached for the wine. "Mom, if this is about your medications again, sit down and listen to your mother." The authority in my voice surprised even me. This was the voice I'd used to command respect in hospital corridors, to calm panicked families, to make life and death decisions in emergency situations. "I know about your plans," I continued. "All of them. The realtor, Sunset Manor, the discussions about my mental competency, the fascinating conversations about my bank accounts." Linda tried to interrupt. "Mom, you don't understand." "I understand perfectly. You've been planning to sell my house and warehouse me in a nursing home, presumably while I'm still breathing, but hopefully not paying too much attention." The room went so quiet, I could hear the grandfather clock in the hallway, the one David's father had given me for our 5th wedding anniversary. "Here's what's going to happen," I said, my voice steady as surgical steel. "You're going to listen to me explain exactly how this is going to work from now on." Setting the record straight, David found his voice first. "Mom, we're only trying to help. You've been forgetting things, and we're worried about your safety." "My safety?" I laughed, and it wasn't a pleasant sound. "You want to talk about safety? Let's discuss how safe I feel knowing my own children are plotting behind my back." Linda tried a different approach. "We love you, Mom. This isn't about money." "Stop." The word came out like a gunshot. "Do not insult my intelligence by pretending this is about love. Love doesn't involve secret consultations with realtors. Love doesn't involve researching nursing homes without including me in the conversation. Love doesn't involve treating me like I'm already dead." I pulled out my notebook and placed it on the table. "I've been documenting everything for 3 weeks. Every lie, every manipulation, every condescending pat on the head. Would you like me to read some highlights?" The panic in their eyes was almost satisfying. "Here's entry number 1. Linda suggested I should think about downsizing while standing in my living room measuring the windows with her eyes." Entry 15. David asked detailed questions about my mortgage payments, claiming he wanted to help me budget. Entry 23. Both children exchanged meaningful looks when I told them I'd hired a new landscaper, as if this decision was evidence of mental decline. I closed the notebook. "I am not senile. I am not incompetent. I am not a problem to be solved. I am your mother, and I deserve better than this." The reckoning, the silence stretched for nearly 5 minutes. Linda was crying, whether from shame or frustration, I couldn't tell. David was staring at his hands like they held the secrets of the universe. Finally, Linda spoke. "We didn't mean for it to happen like this." "How did you mean for it to happen? Were you planning to ask my permission at some point, or was I supposed to wake up one morning in a nursing home and just accept it?" David cleared his throat. "The house is too big for you, Mom. The maintenance, the expenses, are my responsibilities and my decisions. This house is my home, not your inheritance portfolio." "But what if something happens to you?" Linda asked. "What if you fall or forget to turn off the stove, or then I'll deal with it. The same way I've dealt with every challenge in my life for 78 years, without betraying the people I love most." The weight of that last sentence hit them like a physical blow. The new rules. I stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the garden I'd tended for 4 decades. "Here's how things are going to work from now on," I said, without turning around. First, you will cancel whatever arrangement you've made with that realtor. Second, you will never again discuss my living situation, my finances, or my medical care without including me in the conversation. I turned back to face them. Third, if you're genuinely concerned about my well-being, you'll start treating me like a human being with agency and dignity, not like a problem to be managed. Mom, David started, we can't just pretend this didn't happen. You're absolutely right. We can't. Which brings me to my fourth point. I'm changing my will. Both of them went rigid. I'm not disinheriting you, yet, but I am making some modifications. This house will go into a trust that prevents it from being sold for 10 years after my death. The proceeds from my life insurance will be donated to elder advocacy organizations, and I'm naming my attorney as the executor of my estate, not either of you. Linda's tears were flowing freely now. You're punishing us for caring about you. I'm protecting myself from children who confused caring with controlling. There's a difference, though I understand why you might not see it. The long road to understanding what followed wasn't reconciliation. That would be too neat, too Hollywood. What followed was something messier and more honest, the slow, painful process of rebuilding a relationship on new terms. Linda came by the following week, not to check on me, but to apologize. Really apologize, not just mouth the words. I convinced myself we were being responsible, she said. But I think I was scared. Scared of losing you, scared of watching you decline, scared of not knowing how to help. I made tea, my ritual for serious conversations, and we talked for 3 hours. Really talked. Not the careful dance of pleasantries we'd been performing for months. David took longer to come around. His pride was wounded, his assumptions about his role as the man of the family challenged. When he finally called, it wasn't to apologize, but to ask questions. How long have you known? He asked. About your plans? 3 weeks. About your lack of respect for my autonomy. Much longer. He was quiet for a long time. I don't know how to do this, Mom. How to watch you get older without trying to fix everything. Start by asking me what I need, instead of assuming you know. The gradual healing. Over the following months, we established new patterns. Linda still visited weekly, but now she asked, before rearranging my medication organizer. David called every few days, but now he talked about his work problems and his kids' activities instead of interrogating me about my grocery shopping habits. The most surprising development was my own transformation. The experience of standing up for myself, of refusing to be diminished, had awakened something I thought I'd lost years ago. I started taking a painting class at the community center. I joined a book club. I began dating a lovely widower named Frank, who treated me like an interesting woman, not a fragile antique. My children struggled with these changes initially. The mother they'd been preparing to institutionalize was suddenly more vibrant and independent than she'd been in years. You seem different, Linda observed one afternoon. I'm remembering who I am beyond just being your mother. The wisdom of experience, people. Ask me now, friends, neighbors, the lovely folks who comment on the online version of this story, how I found the strength to fight back. The answer isn't simple, because strength isn't simple when you're my age. For years I'd been complicit in my own diminishment. I'd accepted the subtle condescension, the gradual erosion of my decision-making authority, the assumption that aging meant becoming less capable rather than differently capable. I'd internalized their narrative about my decline. But betrayal, profound betrayal, has a way of clarifying things. It strips away the comfortable illusions and forces you to see the truth, that dignity isn't something other people give you, it's something you claim and defend. The legal aspects of my response weren't about revenge, though I won't pretend there wasn't satisfaction in watching my children realize they'd underestimated their old mother. The changes to my will, the trust arrangements, the new power of attorney documents, these were about ensuring that my wishes would be respected even if my capacity to defend them diminished. But more than that, they were about sending a message. I am not your victim. I am not your burden. I am not your problem to solve. Living forward today, 18 months after that devastating afternoon by the refrigerator, my relationship with my children is more honest than it's been in decades. We've all had to confront uncomfortable truths about family dynamics, aging, and the difference between caring for someone and controlling them. Linda has become my ally in ways I never expected. She's learned to see me as a whole person again, not just as her declining mother. David is still struggling with the adjustment, but he's trying. He asks for my advice about his teenagers now, remembering that I successfully raised 2 children of my own. My health? Better than it's been in years. Turns out that chronic stress from feeling disrespected and dismissed takes a real toll on the body. Who knew? The house? Still mine, still my sanctuary, still the place where I make my own decisions about my own life. Frank and I are planning a trip to Italy this spring. Linda worried it might be too ambitious for someone my age, then caught herself and laughed. I'm sorry, Mom. I meant to say have a wonderful time. Progress. The ongoing story. I won't pretend this story has a perfect ending, because life doesn't work that way. My children and I are still figuring out how to navigate my aging process with mutual respect and genuine care. Some days are better than others, but I wake up every morning in my own bed, in my own house, making my own choices about my own life. I wake up knowing that I fought for my dignity and won. I wake up remembering that being old doesn't mean being powerless. The fridge camera is still there, by the way. Jake sheepishly asked if I wanted him to remove it, but I told him to leave it. Sometimes the most important conversations are the ones people think you can't hear, and sometimes late at night when the house is quiet, I look at that camera and smile. It was the instrument of my betrayal, but it was also the catalyst for my liberation. Funny how life works that way. So that's my story, dear friends. The story of how a 78-year-old woman learned to fight for herself when the people she trusted most had written her off. If this resonates with you, please share it with someone who needs to hear it. And remember, it's never too late to stand up for your own dignity. Subscribe for more stories of resilience, and let me know in the comments. When did you realize you were stronger than people assumed? I'm Margaret Chen, and I'm still here, still fighting, still very much alive.